Mic check, yo. We still here? Still going strong, yeah? Are you down with Zuby? Yeah. I will not go pop, I will not go soft. When I say no means no. This is true hip-hop, I do not flip-flop. When I say flow mean flow. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. I will not go pop, I will not go soft. When I say no means no. This is true hip-hop, I do not flip-flop. When I say flow mean flow. This is perseverance. 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 I've been on the rhyme since I made a first appearance. I've been on the grind, never waited for the clearance. Life is all the time, so I'm gonna live it fearless. Yeah, and people gonna hear this. Made a little name with a vision and coherence. Never been a lame, now I'm closer to a genius. Knowledge in my brain, chalk it up to the experience. Still I'm not rich, but at least I ain't broke. Never sell dreams, cause I'd rather sell hope. People so lost in the mirrors and the smoke, think I'd be a realer bloke if I said I sold dope. Nope. But my fans will tell you that I'm awesome. I started selling and they bought them. I told them get them and I got them. So if you want dope bars, that is not a problem. It's time to put the needles on the wax. Rock hard like I got the Beatles in the back. Go soft, make it easy living off the map. Or I can go hard like a freaking cheetah on the track. I'm grinding from a zero to a stack. And I'm talking about De Niro getting jacked. If Wakanda needs a new king, I'ma go hard to be the leader of the pack. A needle in a stack, and I'm feeling to attack. Not a baller, no T'Challa, but a hero and I'm black. I'm an eagle to a rat, rebel demon on a track. I'm a scholar and a brawler, you don't feel it if you're whack. You're always talking evil in your rap, and I'm trying to put my meanings on the map. I gave you 12 rules for life and kept my room clean. I'm the Jordan Peterson of rap. Yeah. I will not go pop, I will not go soft. When I say no means no. This is true hip-hop, I do not flip-flop. When I say flow mean flow. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. I will not go pop, I will not go soft. When I say no means no. This is true hip-hop, I do not flip-flop. When I say flow mean flow. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. And I believe what I prophesize, so I don't apologize. Unless I do wrong, I don't bow to the mob, I don't live to antagonize. But they say I'm too outspoken. They wonder if I'm joking. Look, a little bit is jest, but I say what I feel, man, I'm real and I'm open. Trust in God, but I live in the physical. Selfish thoughts, but I give in the lyrical. Thought cops hot, want my speech to be criminal. Lies get fought when I speak the political. I am not left wing, I am not right wing. I just know all these things I know. You cannot label me, you can't put shame on me. When I say go means go. Fresh, I step into the premises, kick dope rhymes and they love how I'm expressing it. Hop online and reply to all the messages. Gotta spend time, man, I'm grateful that you cherish it. Don't talk crap, no, I'd rather be irrelevant. Can't play dumb, people know that I'm intelligent. See me up late night, big beard, Letterman. 12 years deep now, I'm flowing like a veteran. Dudes show love, now I'm moving up in eminence. Girls show love, cause they're feeling all the pleasantness. Got huge dreams, I can never be a pessimist. Too much love, I can never be a feminist. Girl, stop looking all incredulous. I am not a bad man, I am not your nemesis. Always had a mega drive, take it back to Genesis. Worked so hard, time to reap a couple benefits. Yeah, I will not go pop, I will not go soft. When I say no means no. This is true hip-hop, I do not flip-flop. When I say flow mean flow. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. I will not go pop, I will not go soft. When I say no means no. This is true hip-hop, I do not flip-flop. When I say flow mean flow. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to the Vanguard. For Spike, the first Jewish MVP of the Muddied Waters Media, Cohen. I am Matt Wright, and together we are traversing the
Muddy Waters of Freedom. Yeah, no, it's
that got really confusing there since
You're
I threw
literally, yeah.
Literally, Spike Cohen is with me.
Hey, everybody, how are you doing?
Whew. How are you today?
I'm doing well. I've got I'm reeling from your little gastronomic venture that you posted with your very jealous.
I'm not gonna lie, like I did not know how that was gonna turn out. And I mean Shane Sweeney.
Shane Sweeney is wrong.
Hashtag Team Tilapia Sweeney.
He's wrong. He's just wrong.
He's
Shane,
he's
Shane, the Vietnamese.
So much, but he's just wrong.
Everyone has to be wrong on something. Shane is wrong about his obsession with Vietnamese poop fish, otherwise known as tilapia. I was wrong in thinking that I could trust Shane when it comes to something related to food. That's my shortcoming.
So what I also
and I'm making an amends for that in this moment.
What I also learned today, and it's very upsetting. It's almost precluded South Carolina from being a state that I could ever possibly live in.
What happened?
You don't have Sheetz and or Wawa.
No, and Matt,
because I insulted Shane by saying, "Do you take dates to Wawa for anniversaries?"
And he had no idea what that meant.
He didn't know what it meant, so I was like, "Okay, well maybe they have Sheetz." And I was like, "Wait, do you have Sheetz?" And he said, "No." And I was like, "Well, I can't even."
You can cross the border like 5 minutes into North Carolina. I don't know about Georgia, but like 5 minutes into North Carolina, and there's a Sheetz. Going into Charlotte, there's a Sheetz, and then where I am going into Charlotte or whatever it is, there's a Sheetz. So I mean, they're nearby, but for whatever reason, there are apparently no Sheetz or Wawas. Wawa is a more north thing. I think that's kind of like North Virginia and north of Virginia. But Sheetz, we've got them just north of us. But
so Wawa, I believe, started in Pennsylvania, and so does Sheetz, actually. I think both.
Probably, yeah. I know they're huge in both those states. When I drive to Toronto and when I drive back, close to 9 times out of 10, we're either stopping at a Sheetz, a Wawa, or what's the other big one? Further south. Further south is Quick Trip, which is a poor man Sheetz, to be honest.
Okay.
TBH. It's a poor man's TBH. It's a poor man Sheetz. But yeah.
Yeah, like so where I grew up, Sheetz was, we didn't have Wawa at the time. We only had Sheetz, and Sheetz was my 2 a.m. I'm hammered food, and I loved it, and I still love it.
See, the problem is we have Waffle House, which just floods out everything. Yeah, and that's what happens when you can sell a steak and eggs for like $5. It's hard to it just drowns out everything else.
Yeah, and then when I came down here, we had Wawa everywhere, and there's more of them opening every day. And God bless them. Like if a Sheetz came down here, I'd be hard pressed to be like, "Nah, I'm still a Sheetz guy," because I have now fully injected Wawa right into the bloodstream. Like I'm mainlining it at this point. But I wouldn't take a date there.
That sounds kind of dangerous. My first to mainline a business. My first exposure to Wawa was during the 2012 presidential campaign. Romney showed up at a Wawa to talk about American innovation and acted just, he was like, "Whoa," and like that. Yeah, that you could press the on the LCD screen what you wanted, and he was acting, and everyone's like, "Isn't that crazy that Mitt Romney's acting that way?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I want to do that." Like I was like, "That sounds incredible." I share Mitt Romney's joy and shock and amazement at that. Liz Perez in the house says QT. I'm not against Quick Trip, Liz. Especially like if you're into pizza, they have those little cheap single serve pizzas my wife is in love with.
This is my screen for Wawa. It's right here.
Is this is your home screen? Is Wawa?
No, like this is how I order all of my Wawa. I order it while I'm at my house and then I drive there. I don't even take time touching their dirty screens.
That's actually smart, though. That's a hygienic way of doing it. You touch your dirty screen instead,
My
circulating
dirty
your
screen.
own germs.
Right.
That's funny. So, oh, first and foremost, allow me to thank Kroger for this delicious, purified drinking water that I drink whenever I'm in America.
And allow me to thank superfan Casey Neff for bringing me the kava that I'm drinking today.
Bula Vanaka. Casey Neff, by the way, one of our, what was it, 75-cent limerick?
Oh yeah, she's the limerick. She got the limerick. She is the 75-cent limerick.
75-cent limerick winner. Casey Neff.
That's
We're going to
right.
do more of that.
Right, 75 guys. If you want a limerick written about
Dirty
you,
limerick.
if you want to, I mean, it might not be dirty. I don't like. I know Casey can take that. Like she's fine. I get it. But
Hey, that's what I heard.
that's the name of her sex tape. But I know that Casey can do it. But if you want a limerick written about you, it only costs 75 cents.
75 cents.
75 cents. And all you have to do is donate 75. Just go to the old anchor.fm and give us a donation of 75 cents. And one of us will write a limerick about you.
Anchor.fm/muddied waters. And for 75 cents, I will write a limerick. And for 78 cents, the award-winning author Matt Wright will write a better limerick.
Best-selling award-winning.
Best-selling award-winning author Matthew Wright will write you a really good, probably dirty limerick.
Probably dirty.
Probably dirty. So thank you. So, speaking of, man, there's no segue. Speaking of, I mean, listen, guys.
This is not the cheerful show that.
Here's the opposite of the happiness that comes from a limerick from one of us.
That's right.
The polar opposite. Our polar opposite is the so some terrible things have happened. If you haven't been awake for the last 4 or 5 days, we have some bad news for you. Some really terrible things that happened in some shootings that happened across the country. The first one was in Gilroy, California. That was actually last week, right? This predated the other ones by quite a bit, right?
No, I mean, by like a day.
Oh, was it? See, I thought it was like a week before.
It may have been two. No, it was like 2 or 3. They were all really close together.
They were all pretty close.
All since the debates.
Oh, even the Gilroy one was after the debate?
I think the Gilroy one was Thursday.
Oh, okay.
I think
all
the
right,
Gilroy one was Thursday. Then El Paso was Saturday. Yeah, and then like less than like 12 hours later was the Dayton one. So there was a shootings in Gilroy, California, El Paso, Texas, and Dayton, Ohio. 31 people murdered in the total in the 3 shootings. Dozens of others have been hurt. It has been absolutely devastating. I mean, it's obviously any death or any murder is devastating, but when you think these were 3 relatively pedestrian places for people to be, one was a festival called the Garlic Festival that they hold every year in Gilroy, which is a smallish town in California, and then there was a shooting at a Walmart. We all go to Walmart or some other grocery supermarket in El Paso, Texas. And then the third one was at a nightclub district or I guess a nightlife district targeted towards a specific bar and grill in Dayton, Ohio. So these weren't, 9/11 was attacks on the Pentagon and the World Trade Center, places that most of us would never end up going, much less, be a part of every day. These were kind of small town attacks that, they rock people because besides just the loss of life and the fear and everything, you think I could go to a Walmart or some store or, grab a sandwich grab a drink at a bar or go to some local festival and something like this can happen. So it really
shook everyone. And to add, obviously, horror on top of horror, I guess let's talk about the motivations behind the shooters. The shooter in Gilroy and the shooter in El Paso were similar. They both, the one in El Paso was a lot more explicit, but the one in Gilroy seemed to kind of be in the same, I guess, political bandwagon where they seem to be kind of white nationalists. The one in El Paso definitely was. He does not call himself a Trump supporter, but only because he thinks Trump doesn't go far enough. And he's kind of a down the line white nationalist. It's very interesting because white nationalists typically are also socialists. They're just socialists just for white people. And
Right.
so he supported universal basic income, which is something that Andrew Yang and Marianne Williamson support, but he supports it just for white people. He supports nationalized health care, which is something that almost every Democrat now supports in some form or another, but just for white people. And so they did these shootings. The third shooter in Dayton is actually a Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders supporter. He's a Democratic socialist, down the line supporter. He wants socialism to happen sooner than later. And you actually knew something about correct me if I'm wrong, but there was something to do with where he targeted, right? The bar.
There was something to do with the bar. There was something to do. It was either with the bar that he targeted, or it had something to do with the district that he targeted.
But it was something about how it was like it was favored by like kind of rural rednecky types and kind of like where a lot of conservatives would be or something like that.
And I wasn't clear on whether or not that was the area that it took place, or if that was the bar where it happened.
Yeah.
But it was the area of Dayton, Ohio, where you would see many of Trump supporters.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, okay. So Ned Pepper's is kind of like I guess sort of like a cowboy themed restaurant. And so you'd have a lot of, I guess, stereotypical, redneck types or, Southern types that would go to something like that.
Liz Perez just kind of, sorry to interrupt, but
no,
Liz
go
Perez,
ahead.
the guy from California and the guy from Texas look so much alike. It's creepy, which is true. But what makes it creepier is that all three of them look so much alike.
Let me see if I can grab that photo of the shooters, because they look like the same person.
They could be. Did anybody see that? Not that they can really answer me, but the three identical strangers was the name of the documentary. It was about three twins that had been separated, or a set of triplets that had been separated at birth, and they all ended up finding each other. It was a real story. It happened back in the 80s, and it was just crazy. But they look like they could be a family that was separated.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's really
bizarre.
It's really creepy, and they also what am I looking for?
I think
Here, let me pull it up. Let me just
posted it yesterday. That's all I know. That's who.
Yeah, so this is them. Where is it? I just downloaded it. It's just really, like, I know I'm taking time to do this, but it's really, really creepy how similar they all look. This is them, and like that's creepy as hell. Especially the first two. They were even wearing like the same glasses. But like,
so the picture that I saw of the Dayton shooter, he was wearing the same type of glasses.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, you've got three relatively generic looking, kind of unremarkable white guys that are all roughly in the same age within 5 years of each other. Just really, really, really creepy. And two had roughly the same motivation, and the third one had different motivation. But although ultimately they all had the same motivation, they wanted government to be harming other people to their benefit, and they got sick of waiting and decided to take matters into their own hands, which is I mean, it's a horrific thing, and it's what happens when a lot of these people become political radicals, is they do these kind of attacks on people. It's really sad.
It is. It is really sad, and everybody's always looking for the answer on, well, what race is the person, or what political affiliation is the person, or what religion is the person, or whatever. And none of that matters.
No, it doesn't matter. Fotini Henderson asked, if I donated for a limerick, will you brown paper wrap it? Sure. Yes. Our friend Bass over at YouTube says they look like they could all be Muddied Waters hosts. And
Okay.
yeah,
I mean,
I think we look better than them.
I know we do.
I mean, we definitely. I mean, just the cheekbones. Like, I mean, we've got much better. We have classically chiseled feature. I have their glasses, yes, and
So do
he
I.
does usually as well, yes. But behind those glasses is something pretty spectacular.
He's got laughter in his eyes.
I've got the joy of the whole world in this hand. So we got some great stuff that happened as a result of this, because it wasn't bad enough that a bunch of people were killed by maniacs. As per usual, we're used to hearing from the Democratic side of the field whenever any kind of tragedy like this happens, that this is a reason to take everyone's guns. We're going to take the guns. We got to take the big, especially the big black, scary, long guns that are scary looking. We got to get rid of those. And even though the vast majority of shootings are from just regular handguns that are not, are not, scary assault weapons, which are basically medium game hunting rifles. But sadly, we live in a new era. You see, conservatives are the progressives of 15 to 20 years prior, and we've now caught up to the late 90s. And so now conservatives are pretty well down the road of doing at least some bans of guns and the ability to get guns. So Donald Trump tweeted, "We cannot let those killed in El Paso, Texas, and Dayton, Ohio die in vain." It's interesting that he didn't mention Gilroy, but I don't think that was a deliberate snub.
Yeah, I don't think it was. I think he had done something. I think he had done a tweet on Gilroy beforehand. So I think that because it's Donald Trump, it's whatever's happening right now.
I don't think that was, he's glad that Gilroy happened or whatever. But anyway, he said, likewise, for those so seriously wounded, we can never forget them. And those who came before them, Republicans and Democrats must come together and get strong background checks. And then he talks about potentially marrying it to immigration reform so that you can have the government control your guns and your ability to travel. And
Right.
So some are saying, well, and Dan Crenshaw, he did the same, or as we now call him, Dan Fudshaw, who said the solutions aren't obvious, even if we pretend they are, but we must try. Let's start with the TAPS Act, maybe also implement state red flag laws or gun violence restraining orders, stop them before they can hurt someone. The problem, of course, with this is some people are saying, well, they're not calling for banning guns. You see, they're calling for limiting who can get the guns, and that's completely different. And in some ways, that's way worse.
Yeah, I was going to
Matt,
say that's actually, well, I mean, I don't know if it's way worse, but it's a different side of the same coin. Both are awful. Both are awful. Yes, anytime that something like this happens, it is it's a travesty, purely tragedy. I don't know anybody out there, with the exception of people who are rooting for the white nationalists or anything like that, who are happy when something like this happens.
No.
I can't. There's not a single person out there. Like, everybody's like, "Oh, yeah, the NRA is probably happy about it." Yeah, no, they're not.
No one is happy about this.
Nobody is happy when something like this happens.
No.
It is awful. And you get a ton of politicians and pundits and even people who even people who do, what we do, except on a much smaller scale, if
Right.
that's possible. But people who do what we do, and they do they want emotion-based legislation,
Right.
and they don't think about the fact that emotion-based legislation ends up restricting the future for, well, the rest of society.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, we need to fix this here. We need to fix this now. We need to do something. We need to do this. Bam, this is done.
Right.
And it ends up with people down the line not being able to protect themselves, or not being able to travel freely, or not being able to pick any freedom or right that you love, not being able to say the words that you want to say, because you might end up being thrown in jail or fined or whatever.
Or killed.
Right.
You could end up dead.
Killed. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, side note, Chris Reynolds found out about 8chan today. He asked me, he was like, what is 8chan? And I was like, it's like 4chan.
It's 4chan times 2.
Without the class.
It's 4chan without like the redeeming, like wholesome memes and people talking about how well their day went. It's just pure hate.
Right.
And he's right. There's definitely a lot of people that are happy
on 8chan that's very happy about what happened. But again, 8chan is 4chan without the class. So I mean, that kind of gives you an idea of who's happy.
Yeah. This is not the general public that's happy, or even the general Trump supporting public, or the general Liz Warren supporting public, or the vast majority of people who are not total sociopaths are not happy that this happened. This is not, no one's cheering that this happened. We're all horrified by this. Right. We're also worried about the unintended or possibly intended consequences of some of this legislation that's being proposed. Oh, by the way, we did mention that the Democrats or the Republicans had we had Trump with his tweet, and we had Crenshaw with his tweet, and apparently my beloved Marianne Williamson also tweeted something. And so the it's neither.
Can you leave that up just a little bit longer?
I mean, it was just a thing that she said that it's whatever.
Yeah.
Long story short, she wasn't happy.
I saw something about outlawing something.
Something that I don't remember.
But yeah, Hillary Clinton jumped out on the we need to get rid of all the guns. And,
yeah.
Every Democrat out there is, and many Republicans are doing the exact same thing, because there is no real difference between the two main parties.
Not at this point. No, it's a rhetoric thing, and even their rhetoric, there's less and less daylight between their rhetoric. What conservatives are doing is saying, well, instead of banning any type of gun, we just need to limit who gets them. But here's the problem with that. If we banned, let's say we banned AR-15s and guns that are similar to AR-15s, which means pretty much any medium to small caliber semi-automatic hunting rifle. And the result of that would be that you couldn't buy those anymore legally. And if you committed a crime and used one of those, you'd have an additional charge. The odds of them, just like with this bump stock thing, you don't see the ATF out trying to, kicking down people's door looking for bump stocks, just because it's not practical to try to do that. What you would have is, gun buybacks and amnesties and whatever, and most people would just hold on to their guns. The problem with these red flag laws is that all it takes, and I'm not as familiar with the TAPS Act. I'm not sure. Do you know what the TAPS Act is?
No, I'm not as familiar with the TAPS Act. I meant to look that up today, but then
no problem.
Away from me.
Yeah, I'll look it up in a second. But the thing with the red flag laws were designed that if you know someone who is potentially an imminent threat to those around them, an imminent threat to others, you can call the police, and the police can come and tell the person, we're taking your gun temporarily until we can figure out if everything's okay. It's like a wellness check, but also they confiscate your gun, which is a violation of your Fourth Amendment rights, your Second Amendment rights, a bunch of other stuff. It's a violation of your freedoms, and it has killed, I think something like 10 people have already been killed by police in various red flag law situations where they were not committing any crime, they were in their own home, and the police showed up and told them, I'm taking your gun, because someone called and told the police on you. Which, if you've ever had a meme reported on Facebook, or ever had anyone report you on social media, those are the people who are going to get mad at you, find out what your address and name are, and call the police and say that you're a danger and to go pick you up. So it's a really dangerous thing, these red flag laws.
Right. And the TAPS Act doesn't look like it's much better. I just did a quick Google on it, and it opens with, for decades, a process to identify, investigate, assess, and mitigate threats has been in place to counter targeted violence, pioneered by the Secret Service. If it works to protect the president, elected officials, foreign dignitaries, blah, 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 why aren't we using it to protect our children in local communities? Which anytime that somebody says we need to do this for the children, I automatically question it, because they're using that as a political tool, and it's a dirty trick to try to get emotion out of people. But it will standardize and provide a behavioral threat assessment and management process across the federal government, provide the states with training, resources, and support needed to stand up community-based, multidisciplinary behavioral threat assessments. And basically, what this is saying is, if you're acting in a way that somebody sees a behavioral threat, they can come in and try and take your weapons, is what I believe, or arrest you, is what it looks like.
It sounds like
a really quick Google search, and
yeah.
And that's on Brian Babin's website.
Brian Babin. Shout out to Brian Babin. That sounds like pre-crime.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's Minority Report.
Yeah, it's like
without the technology.
You're acting just with jerks on databases going, yep, let's take it gone. It sounds like it's like if you express frustration online and say, this person, I need to throw this guy in a wood chipper or something like that. Now you're going to have Secret Service after you instead of dealing with that. We already have laws against making terroristic threats. So this is going a step past that and saying, well, if you start to act kind of funny, then, we're going to step in and do something. Bass says, I'm sure no jilted lovers will ever use this act maliciously. Exactly. Like, right. This is a really, 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 really bad idea. And Trump also tweeted that, that some stuff about, video games, which is there's your First Amendment.
So Sarah Anderegg, she said, a parent on the airplane I'm on right now is talking about the shootings and ranting about video games being the influence.
Yeah, no, that's definitely it.
I remember hearing this when Columbine happened.
Yeah.
And it was the video games, and people blamed the movie Heathers, and which I thought was weird. Heathers came out in like
Heathers?
Yeah. But they constantly look and blame anything they can except for what needs to be blamed. And in all honesty, of the 27 people who have been arrested for mass shootings this year, I think it's 27. Don't quote me on that number. I think 26 of them grew up without a dad. They found father figures in other areas that weren't good people, and they ended up, this was sort of the road that they went down.
Right.
Like, I'm not somebody who's like, yeah, you need a strong nuclear family, blah, blah, blah. But in many cases, having a dad in the picture, having a dad and a mom in the picture, it's important to the growth of a human.
Especially for this particular problem, which is like young men with problems who, decide that this is the best way to do it. And not just with, white mass shooters, but there are, a lot of people get attacked that when a black person commits a violent crime, we call them thugs and, scum or whatever, and say that, that's just how they are or whatever. And when we talk about white people, we start talking about the roots of what caused whatever. This is just as true with a lot of these, young black men that are getting caught up in violent stuff, and white men and everything else. I think whether it's a father or whatever else, most boys, if they don't have a strong, positive male role model in their lives, I think that, are they all going to become mass shooters or criminals or whatever? No, but I think it presents potential problems. Are there mass shooters who had great family structures and everything else? Absolutely. But I think Sean said, just treat each other like human beings is the start of the solution. I think you have a lot of people that have learned to be dehumanized and dehumanize others, and by the time they're in their 20s, they're weaponized. They're ready to kill people and have been for quite some time, but now they have the means and ability to actually do so. And it's scary as hell. I mean, going back to this video game thing, first of all, so this is a boomer refrain. This is a common boomer refrain that they're not the only ones saying it, but they're the ones you're most likely to hear it from. That, the video games are just so realistic and you're fully immersive and they're killing people. And they've been saying this since the days of like Nintendo 64 with like James Bond GoldenEye and stuff like that. Even with like Wolfenstein 3D and stuff.
Fighter and stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, especially with like the first-person shooters, when like Doom and Wolfenstein 3D and stuff came out, they're like, that's not gonna make people want to kill people. The average boomer was raised on cartoons where the characters gleefully and routinely murdered each other multiple times in an episode. And the whole episode was about how they needed to murder each other for various, like, trivial reasons. I don't like this rabbit. I'm going to murder him.
Wabbit.
And then, what's that?
Wabbit.
Wabbit. I don't like this wabbit. I'm going to murder him.
Wabbit.
This wascally wabbit, I have to murder him. And that was a terrible Elmer Fudd, and I apologize.
Elmer Fudd.
But so they were raised on that, and then they'd go outside and dress like cowboys and indigenous peoples, and they would shoot at each other with cap guns that had little bits of gunpowder in it. Now, you got me that some of these 3D games are pretty immersive and pretty realistic. There is nothing more realistic than walking up to your friend and pointing a revolver at him and shooting him in the head, and he goes, I got some of that on my face, because, it pops out and whatever. Like, I was that last generation of kids that had cap guns, and they had already made them less powerful, and you could still hurt someone just being close enough to them that it just kind of burned them a little. That's far more immersive than anything in the newest Halo or Red Dead Redemption or what have you. Like, I mean...
Yeah, it's like when Grand Theft Auto was the biggest game out there, and and people were like, oh, this is going to cause people to want to go around and kidnap hookers and kill them and steal tanks. Well, stealing tanks,
Who doesn't want to steal a tank? Let's be clear. Be clear here.
But not everybody is going to play Grand Theft Auto and then go, okay, well, now I need to go find a hooker and then take the money that I paid her for sex and kill her. Like, no. The only
I
people
never did that.
Are the people that wanted to do that before playing the game.
Yeah. And the same thing with movies, music, whatever you want to blame on these external things. If you take someone that's got some serious problems and expose them to this stuff, is there going to be a problem? Yeah. But that's always been the case. People used to, like, again, if you look at the cartoons of today, where people are outraged because there's like a gay character or something, it's like, oh my gosh, at least it's, that's so much worse than Looney Tunes, where Bugs Bunny would dress up like a woman, make out with Elmer Fudd, and then murder him. We have, like, it's just, there's always been, and if you listen to like the jazz music and the rhythm of blues music of the 1910s and 20s and 30s, they talk about violence and sex and everything else. Like, this myth that, you're going to have more murder if the games or movies are more violent. It's just, if anything, those things are a catharsis that, can help people vent and not explode. Let's also talk about the fact that the murder rate has been steadily dropping since the 1970s. Even with these mass shootings, the murder rate is down markedly from its peak in the 70s, which is when gun control was at its highest. As gun control went down, so did the murder rate. I'm not saying that there's a direct cause or correlation. I'm saying that that is a very powerful data point against the narrative that gun control saves lives. It doesn't, at least not in the U.S.
It's true. And to quote Eminem, who I don't quote often, but you can blame it on Maryland or the heroin, but where were the parents at?
That's why I didn't have kids. That's not true. But so can't blame this on either of us.
Right.
Because we don't have kids.
Yeah. No. The thing is the entire week was a tragedy, and it's awful. And I know a lot of people say that if you don't want to do something about it, you don't care about human life, and that's just not true.
No, that's
Not
nonsense.
true even a little bit. You still care about human life. You care deeply about human life. It's you want people to be able to protect themselves in all circumstances, everywhere.
Yeah.
And that is the difference maker in my mind. And
Yeah.
you can disagree with me, and that's fine. And I know like a lot of my friends that I've known for a long time, they do disagree with me. They think that because I'm not for gun control and I think that I should be able to own whatever weapon I want, I don't care about human life, and I'm part of the problem and I'm allowing this stuff to happen. But no, it's you see it one way, I see it a different way, and the only difference is I want to be able to protect me, my family, my friends if a situation ever arises.
And that's all it is. That's
Right.
that's literally what it is. My thing is, I'm an anarchist. I don't know. I was 40 minutes in. Here's my little anarchist rant. The U.S. government is both the largest terrorist organization and the largest black market arms dealer in human history. They operate a massive, brutal global empire that results in the massacre of civilians, countless numbers of civilians every year. They also operate the largest prison population in human history, both in terms of percentage of the population and raw numbers. It's actually gone down slightly over the last 5 to 6 years, but it's a huge prison population, make up a quarter of the current prison population, despite making up 4% of the total human population. Most of those people that are in jail are people of color, poor people and people of color who are in there for victimless crimes where they didn't actually harm anybody. Any talk about reducing violence, particularly gun violence or weapons violence, but violence in general. Oh, and the leaders of this government are constantly dehumanizing someone in some form or another, whether it's foreign people or immigrants or white male gun owners or whatever. They're dehumanizing someone to create an enemy and a scapegoat to blame all of society's ails on. And so all these things combined tell me that any conversation about reducing violence that isn't centered around disarming or at least greatly reducing the size, scope, power, and lethality of the U.S. government is not a serious discussion about ending violence. It's a discussion about fear of people with individual people with guns, but it isn't actually a serious data driven discussion about ending violence. So there.
Yeah.
So we had some, I guess, good news or silver linings. In the El Paso shooting, there was a guy named Glenn Oakley who is a total hero. Matt, I think you know a little bit more about Glenn before I play this video.
Glenn Oakley. Hang on one sec. Curtis Lupton said, so murder rates are down, but immigrants have raised murder to record highs. We didn't say that, right?
Yeah, no, we've never said that.
I didn't think so.
Immigrants, both legal and illegal, are statistically less likely to commit violent crimes than American citizens are. In fact, there is the massive influx of immigrants to the U.S. in the 90s actually contributed to the overall reduction in the violent crime rate because they increased the overall population by a pretty good jump without providing a correlating increase in violent crime. So no, we've never said that. Not here.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, I don't think we said that, but I'm gonna double check that. Curtis, we also don't want a wall.
Yeah, no.
We don't agree with the wall.
We don't agree with the wall.
Right. So Glenn Oakley, he was a member of the military. He was hanging out at Foot Locker next door to the Walmart.
The Walmart,
yeah. Some kids ran in and they're like, somebody's shooting at the Walmart, and they were like, okay. And he thought that the thought that the kids were joking or whatever initially. And so he walked outside and he says that he heard the pop pop. And so he pulls out his gun. He pulls out his gun and he goes to check it out. And he saw kids running and he's grabbing the kids and trying to get them out of there. And then the police stopped him because they thought he may have been the shooter. And Glenn Oakley is a black, he's black. I was like, black gentleman, black person?
He's a black guy.
Black guy. He's a black guy. So the police stopped him. He showed him that, he's like, look, I'm licensed to carry. I'm not the shooter. They said that there was a shooter in there.
Right.
They stopped him from going in, which, so he ended up going and grabbing kids and running away with them and saved multiple, at least pulled them away from the danger. And it was really brave for him to do everything that he did. And when somebody messaged him about it and said, hey, what you did was really great, he replied with, I could have done better.
Yeah. So this is a short video where he was interviewed shortly after the shooting. First of all, just the fact, keep in mind when you're listening to this just happened. Like, I think, so just the composure of this guy to even like talk about it coherently. So here's the video of him talking about what had just happened in El Paso.
New Jersey, a little kid runs in and talking about it's an active shooter in Walmart, but me and the guy that works there, we're just like, he's a kid, so we didn't believe him. So I walk out the mall, go to Foot Locker, I hear pop, pop. I got my license carry, so I pulled my gun out. And I just started to hide, and they closed the Foot Locker. And some people in there, they were so scared, they just lifted the cage, and they just dipped. So I ran with them, and I just tried to make my way to the parking lot. And I see a whole bunch of kids just running around, without their parents and stuff. So I got my bag in my hand, I'm trying to pick them up one by as many as I can, just run out. But they're so anxious, they're like jumping out of my hand, so ain't much I could do for the kids. So I just made my way out, and when I got out, I guess one of the cops thought I was a shooter or something, so I had to show him my clip and stuff, show him it was still full. I got my license carry. He said I was fine. Go out. I called a friend, told him to come pick up my gun, and I'm here now. But it was just a whole bunch of kids up in there. I'm sorry, I'm shaking, but it was a whole bunch of kids in there. And I just hope nothing happened to the kids, because they were out their parents and stuff. I tried to pick up as many as I could and bring them out with me, but I was just so worried about those kids, man, because ain't no telling. Because I heard it was more than one shooter. I heard it was 4. And I'm just worried about those kids. I wasn't even really worried about. I was trying to pick up the kids, man. I wasn't really worried about myself. So, it just brings back flashbacks of, it's just. I just hope the kids are. That's all I'm thinking about right now is the kids. I'm not even worried about myself right now. I'm just worried about those kids.
He's upset he didn't do more.
Right.
He's worried about the kids. Incredible composure. Again, I like that. Like you were just potentially gonna engage a shooter, and dealing with the cops and knowing that they see a guy with a gun. Forget a black guy with a gun. Guy with a gun. Period. Any guy with a gun showing up to a shooting, you're already ready for the worst. And so to go through all that and then still be that composed, it's incredible. There's that quote from Mr. Rogers when he says that, whenever a terrible thing would happen on TV, his mother would say, look for the helpers and, focus on the people that are doing the good in the most terrible situations. This is a perfect example of that. Like, this guy is the quintessential helper. And I have nothing but good things to say about the guy.
So one of the things that everybody always does is they always report on the shooters or, the people who cause these events to happen. And they're like, this is so-and-so, he grew up in whatever, he's this old, this is his background, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Those aren't the people I ever want to remember. I want to remember the Glenn Oakleys. I want to remember the people who actually went out and, they tried to help, or they did help.
Yeah.
And they did what they could to make a difference, because those are the people that matter. Those are the people that are important. Those are the people that we should be celebrating. We shouldn't be talking about the different shooters and the different cases. This is one of the first times I don't even know the shooters' names, because I didn't even want to learn them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
because I saw Glenn Oakley and I said, you know what, Glenn Oakley deserves to be remembered. Glenn Oakley deserves to be talked about.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I get why we talk about the shooters. I get it. Like, there's this sort of morbid curiosity as to what drove them to do it. There is this, the politicians line up to, blame, the rhetoric of the other side or whatever for the actual, shooting that happened. So I get why it happens. It just isn't actually helpful to anyone. Like, it doesn't help. And to look at, I think it's way more helpful to look at someone like a Glenn Oakley as I'm not saying every single person is built to rush into a Walmart during a shooting, but to look at people who are actually trying to help. I'm sure there are many other heroes, people trying to raise money for funerals and hospital expenses, and people that are helping with blood drives and all that sorts of stuff. I think if we got the politics and the morbid curiosity out of it and focused on the people that help after these terrible things, these people who decide to help others, which way outnumber the people trying to harm. For every shooter, there's probably a couple hundred people out there trying to help in one way or another, however they can. I think that we focus on them, because I think that makes this, it doesn't make it any less scary or any less terrible what happened, but it puts in perspective that this world isn't filled with shooters, it's filled with helpers, and there are a couple really bad people, and we shouldn't leave people defenseless to those really bad people. So, we have a video, and hold on one second. We have a video from one of the libertarian presidential candidates, Dan Berman, who wanted to talk about some of the rhetoric coming from these shootings and from the people that did the shootings. This is not an endorsement of Dan Berman's campaign. We definitely like him. We've had him on Matt's show. Probably end up having him on.
Dan's a friend of the show, and a friend of ours. But yeah, we're not endorsing anybody's campaign. It's a good video, and we wanted to share it.
It's a great video and a great message, and so we're going to play that now from Dan Berman.
Let's talk about mass shootings. Over the weekend, there were 3 in America. Before I say anything else, just know that this video is not to attack any of our political leaders, and it's not to favor any policies on the left or the right. Right now, everyone is trying to point blame to politicians for these violent shootings. Elizabeth Warren even blamed Donald Trump in a tweet, despite the fact that one of the shooters was one of her supporters. Another of these shooters was a Trump supporter, who left behind a manifesto citing that his motive was the Hispanic invasion. This is rhetoric that Trump has said repeatedly. It's not just shootings either. People are running over their political opponents with cars or attacking them for wearing the wrong hat. This is what we have to understand. It is not the fault of these politicians, but they are not clear from responsibility. People listen to their leaders. That is a great power. And with great power comes great responsibility. Emotions are powerful. They create strong bonds between people and ideas. They allow people to be influenced and even controlled. Politicians often take on challenging positions on emotionally charged issues because they know it will gain the loyalty of followers. The media, which is largely driven by ratings, constantly seeks to exploit our emotions to increase viewership. We are constantly bombarded with emotional bait to guide our actions. These actions usually amount to paying our taxes, voting, and letting the politicians handle the rest. For some, this just isn't enough. Thinking with our emotions often leads to bad decisions, especially for those who are taking matters into their own hands. They will commit terrible acts of violence, not directly prompted by the leaders they follow, but fueled by emotions that those leaders triggered. I often discuss very emotional issues, and some of my supporters have suggested they want to engage in acts of violence to achieve our goals. I know emotions can run high over these very sensitive issues, and so, as their leader, I tell them not to engage in violence. Sometimes they'll try to justify it and point out that the people they want to commit violence against are actually the criminals, and I might even agree with them. But I tell them there has to be another way because I don't want a civil war. Even if they downplay these suggestions as a joke, I still take them seriously. I'm calling on Donald Trump, Elizabeth Warren, and every other politician to do the same. We cannot be held liable for the acts of our followers if we did not instruct them to commit acts of violence. But we have a responsibility to let them know that we do not support those acts of violence. If they look up to us, they will listen. We need to stop saying hateful things to our political opponents, knowing they will incite emotional reactions. While I absolutely believe in our right to free speech and the right to say those things, leaders should be held to a higher standard and set an example for others. If, as Trump says, hatred does not belong in this country, we need to stop inciting hatred against others. It's time our leaders started taking responsibility with their influential powers and their own followers. United we stand, divided we fall.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is one of the problems, Matt, when we have, and this is the problem with the democratic system in general. When you centralize power, but then allow the people in general to directly access that centralized power through their vote, what ends up happening is it doesn't become a decentralization of power. What it becomes is your friends and neighbors and loved ones becoming your adversaries if they disagree with you on anything. Not just your adversaries or someone that disagrees with you, but now they're your enemy potentially. They're trying to take your rights. And what happens as a result of that is ever increasing warlike rhetoric from both sides. And what we've seen more and more recently is that the leaders of these different movements and parties are more and more likely to either directly inflame that kind of rhetoric or at least just kind of stand back and let it go. We're not going to hear from the media at large, at least not the left-wing part of the media, that one of the shooters was a Liz Warren supporter. Like, that's not going to enter the narrative that these are white nationalist Trump supporters that are doing these shootings. It doesn't match it, and so it's not going to be talked about. Just like we're not really talking about the shootings over the weekend in Chicago where 42 people were shot and in an area with very heavy gun control, because that doesn't match the media narrative. That doesn't change the fact that Liz Warren, Donald Trump, by talking about and dehumanizing and talking about people that don't agree with them as though they're bad people, not just people with a difference of opinion, it leads to if you're already kind of damaged to begin with, and you're hearing that there are these terrible people, whether they're immigrants, conservatives, foreigners, Muslims, white Christians, whatever, they're terrible people, they're ruining everything, they're a threat to your existence, and someone's got to do something. Well, if you're someone that isn't like most people, and you're already looking for a reason to harm people, you just got your reason.
Right. Which there's so many different things that could be talked about this. And every time we have to do one of these shows, in which, it's been happening more and more recently, but
yeah,
it's not easy. It's not easy for anybody. These are hard times for everybody out there, and they end up becoming much more divisive for everybody, because you get the people who react to these things and they want to enact gun control because they think that's going to help, and then you have the people who don't want to enact gun control, and
right.
just create a larger divide in the narratives, and people get more upset, and the hatred grows, and it gets so much more difficult to have regular, normal debate, as opposed to just vitriol being spewed back and forth between the two.
Yep.
And everything turns straw man, and it's, oh, you hate children because you don't believe in gun control, and you want a big police state where the police will be able to come in and just murder your dog if you do. And it just turns into this huge powder keg of emotion between everybody. And it is so hard to talk about every time. but all of us, everybody
to.
listening, everybody watching, we have to be able to talk about it, and we have to be able to have civil conversation about everything without getting to the point of reaching hatred, because that's Star Wars taught us, he has a lot of hate. What is it? It's been so long since I've seen that. Fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to the dark side.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And yeah,
Because you lost me. I'm like, it's a trap? I don't know.
No, fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to the dark side. And this argument for both sides leads to fear in both sides.
Yeah.
And then discuss it, which leads to anger, and the anger then leads to hate. And then somebody who has gone to the dark side does something, and it starts that cycle all over again.
Yeah, no, it's an absolutely terrible thing. It doesn't help to feed the flames. And if you're like me or Matt or most of our followers and listeners and viewers, I'm sure, are libertarian or libertarian leaning. But if you're like us, where everyone else disagrees with us, we don't have a huge base of people that agree with us on everything. When I talk about guns, invariably, someone's going to tell me that, I need to talk to one of these, mass shooter survivors and try to tell them that I don't care about their children, which is not what I said. If I talk about immigration, invariably someone's going to tell me that I need to talk to one of these angel parents who lost their children to a violent illegal immigrant and tell them that I want us to be overrun with terrorists and MS-13 members, which is not what I said. This is what happens when politicians can't just say, I support this because I think this is what's going to result in it. I worry about what happens if we don't do it. That doesn't get you attention on the news channels. That doesn't get you votes. That doesn't get you blind support. What gets you support is talking about, invaders and terrorists and like using the most hyperbolic language about everything all the time so that you whip people up into you have people that are in their 60s and 70s who will get of all ages, but especially in that age group, they will get red in the face telling you that you are an enemy of all good things because, you don't support, I don't know, visa limitations or some ridiculous pedestrian thing. That is a serious issue, but it's just insane. It's just insane.
It is. And you see it as we're in the middle of an election cycle, and we're going to go into it after the paid sponsorship. But you see it, especially in an election cycle, at the debates last week. Don Lemon, I think it was Don Lemon, it may have been Jake Tapper, one of them, asked, with Trump's recent racist tweets, and do you consider him to be a white supremacist? I don't remember the exact wording of the question.
Right,
but
right.
He was utilizing... Chris Reynolds says tilapia fixes.
No, the hell it does not. Listen.
Thank you for adding levity to that, Chris. He said, racist, do you think Donald Trump is a racist or a white nationalist or whatever? And they use these words that incite anger in both sides, because it's like, no, you're calling somebody that and you're dumbing down the word racist or dumbing down the word white supremacist, or you're igniting the other side by going, yes, he is one of those things, we need to get him out of, and it's just making both sides angry, and it's creating more anger, and it's creating more hatred, and it is dividing us all the way on every issue, because all politicians always talk in, like you said, hyperbolic nature, throwing out the worst possible scenario, and each side always ends it with, and don't you care about the children?
The children. And so if you get asked that, if any of those politicians had said, look, I'm not ready to call Donald Trump a white supremacist, but I think his rhetoric is not helpful, and at times he's dehumanizing people, blah, 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 they'd get booed off stage. Their life might be in danger because they're in front of a frothing crowd of people who want to hear the absolute worst. And the same thing on the Republican side. They don't want to hear nuanced language about immigration. They want to talk about invaders and job stealers and gang MS-13. They're all coming from MS-13. Every single one of them is MS-13. And it's terrible. And we need to be focusing, stop being angry and hateful to each other, and focus on the real enemy. Tilapia lovers. People who cape for this filthy, disgusting animal that lives in Vietnamese poop. Not that there's anything wrong. It's not the Vietnamese part that's the problem, by the way. For those who think I'm anti, it's the poop part. The fecal matter is the issue here, guys. Maria Edinbow says, cod fixes things for me. A good flaky fish. A good white fish, Maria. Got cod, a nice flaky light white fish, low in fat if that's something that worries you. I sound very Jewish right now because I'm talking about cod.
And fish, just in general.
Just fish in general. I get like this. A very good fish. Very good fish. What's that?
How do you feel about sword?
I like swordfish a lot, but it's super high in mercury, and so I tend to stay away from it. But it's I like swordfish. You can cook swordfish to taste almost like red meat. It's a really, really, really good fish. I really like swordfish. Bass is 100% correct. If you like tilapia,
I believe that Bass watches a little bit of a show called Letterkenny.
Of what?
Letterkenny. Based on that quote alone, I think he watches Letterkenny.
I'm sure that's true. Never heard of it. Liz Perez, swordfish is delicious. It really is. Swordfish.
Swordfish, mahi, grouper.
Yeah, mahi, grouper. These are all delicious things. You know what else is delicious? Podcasting. Guys, are you looking to make a podcast? Well, I hope you are, because Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast.
That's right. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place for free. Which you can use right from your phone or computer.
That's great. I hear that they have creation tools, you see, that allow you to record and edit your podcast. So it sounds great, Matt.
That's absolutely correct. But not only that, but they will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard everywhere. Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Radio Public, and many more.
That is incredible. Matt, is it true? This can't be true.
It couldn't possibly be true.
But is it true? Well, how do you know what I'm going to say? That you can easily... Is it true? No, it couldn't. That I've heard, if this is true, that you can easily make money from your podcast with, get this, no minimum listenership. Is that true?
It's actually true. It's unbelievable. It's unfathomable, ineffable, but true.
Well, great day in the morning.
Great day in the morning. So all you need to do is download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today.
You can definitely get started today. And speaking of getting started today, Beto O'Rourke, who got started yesterday after a very lackluster presidential campaign thus far that has left everyone wondering, why is Beto O'Rourke running for president? He had a bit of a standout moment. I should have grabbed the video. I even have here that I'm going to get it, and I didn't.
Yeah, I saw that. I didn't see it in there, but I was like, maybe Spike has it on his computer.
I definitely do not.
Okay. So
I literally do not.
Was on CNN. And Jake Tapper, oh, good. I did put some notes down for this. I was just...
Yeah, he did. He did.
Yeah. And Jake Tapper... Same thing as I said happened in the debate. Same thing happened. It was just an interview, just him, Beto and Jake, and he said, "Do you consider the president to be a white supremacist?" And Jake Tapper says yes. Or sorry, Beto O'Rourke says yes. I do wish we had the video because you know how we say Beto?
Beto?
He says it that way.
Oh, wow.
He said Beto.
See,
and
that's
I
funny.
said, he must be watching our show. Yeah, and he said he started saying, man, I wish I had more notes on this. Hang on, I might still have this pulled up somewhere. No, I don't. Neat. But he said, yes, he's a white supremacist. We can't sugarcoat it. We can't go around it. We absolutely 100% need to call him what he is. And he's a racist and he's a white supremacist. We saw it on the campaign trail and we see it with what he does and says now while he's in office.
Right. And so I can at least can play the audio for you to hear. Could you hear that?
Yeah, I could.
Okay. So I can at least play the audio because who wants to look at Beto O'Rourke? Let's just be clear about this. But this is him being interviewed outside of an event asking about Donald Trump.
Is there anything in your mind that the president can do now to make this any better?
What do you think? You know that he's been saying.
Oh.
He's been calling Mexican immigrants rapists and
This
criminals. I don't know, like members of the press. What the? Hold on a second. You know, it's these questions that you know the answers to. I mean, connect the dots about what he's been doing in this country. He's not tolerating racism. He is promoting racism. He's not tolerating violence. He's inciting racism and violence in this country. So, you know, I don't know what kind of question that is.
So,
Yeah,
hot take. Hot take from Beto O'Rourke, guys. Beto O'Rourke is not happy.
No, Beto O'Rourke is not happy. Yeah, I was shocked listening to that because that was the first time I heard that one.
That was the one I was talking about.
Yeah. We should
now
link into the notes next time.
Yeah, well, no, that was my fault. I forgot to do it. I make amends for two things. One was for trusting Shane when it came to food, and then the other thing is for this. Chris says Beto needs more tilapia. He obviously just ate tilapia when he did that. He needed a Snickers, is what he needed. Although actually, that's actually peak Beto. That's really who he is as a person. But if you'll recall, he got a lot of attention. What's that?
This is peak Beto. Okay, I'm down here talking to you at eye level, even though I could be.
Now imagine if Matt was, because I mean Matt's like average height. Beto O'Rourke's like 6'2" or 6'3". What's that?
By definition, yes, I'm average height.
Like the literal average, as am I. He's like, Beto's a tall guy, a tall, lanky guy, and he likes to get up on counters and stages and chairs and cars, and then
stages make sense. Everything else doesn't.
Stages make sense. Everything else is stupid.
Right.
He'll be in a group of like 30 people and get up on a table so they can all see him because they couldn't see him just standing there, and then he gets down, negating the entire point of getting up on the table.
Right.
Let him know I'm one of you guys. That's why I'm up on this damn table with my shoes on the table that everyone's about to eat on, or on this truck, because God knows everyone wanted me to stand on the hood of their truck.
Right.
And he gets down and, hey guys, I'm Beto, yeah. And so he's cussing. That's actually Beto's natural. So like he got a lot of attention when he was cussing when he ran against Anger Weasel in the November. Anger Weasel, the Zodiac killer, whose dad killed JFK in Texas last year. He cussed a lot. Everyone was like, "Yeah, we want a cusser." And then this was one of those things where they're like, "These stupid conservatives, they think they're all mad because Beto's cussing." I didn't hear, and I'm not a conservative. I'm not defending conservative. I didn't hear. Matt, did you see a single conservative angry that Beto cussed?
No.
Because I didn't see it.
No.
Definitely not in the age of Trump. No one's mad about cussing anymore.
Right. Yeah, I definitely did not see a single conservative upset about the language. I did see some conservatives upset about, who was it? Was it, oh God, Arizona, New Mexico, Kristen Cinema or whatever her name is. I think she cussed on the floor or something, and people freaked out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think
that's funny.
Yeah, my dad. Okay, so sorry, my dad just texted me, and he said, He's not watching, but he said, "Did you know Winnie is about 45, maybe 50?" And he's talking about Winnie Cooper from the Wonder Years. And without even thinking about it, I said 44 because I know that. For some reason, I know how old Danica McKellar is. And
Why?
because I've had a crush on her since I was a tiny little kid.
That's an impressive crush to know how old she is just off the top of your head.
Yeah.
Do you know her birthday?
I don't know. Not off the top of my head.
That's
And then he
impressive,
said,
Matt.
she looks good. Well, yeah, Dad, she's Winnie Cooper.
That is funny. So Maria Edenbo says, "I take a milk crate with me always to stand on to talk to people, don't you?" I'm clearly missing out, Maria. Clearly, I've been doing stuff wrong because I just wanted people to see me at my level as opposed to like getting up on a thing and then bending down to pretend that, you know,
I'm one of them.
I'm one of them. I could have just stood next to them like a human being and shook their hand, but I gotta say, I'm like you little people.
Yeah. This is how much I care. I'm up here, but I'm willing to come down to your level.
Here.
To your level.
Having gotten on this counter for zero reason whatsoever.
Right.
Nobody has asked Beto to do this.
Right.
So,
but yeah, so when he was on the CNN video that I thought we were doing, immediately after he said basically all of that without the cursing, because
without the cursing, right,
because he was live on CNN. They started asking about the shootings that happened, and he went from talking about Trump being a white supremacist and a racist to this is what we need to do in order to fix it. And he said, and Jake, I have to tell you, in addition to universal background checks, and in addition to ending the sale of weapons of war into our communities, in addition to red flag laws, we have got to acknowledge the hatred, the open racism that we're seeing. Now, like we said earlier, and I'm certain we're going to say again, this is part of what fuels the hatred that you are now railing against. You can't blame it all on one side. It's the hatred is being fueled. Both sides are fanning that flame
in their own special way.
In their own special way. Somebody's using like a banana leaf fan, and the other side's using an Asian fold-out fan. I don't know. I don't know the names of fans. But they're both using fans. It's just whichever one they prefer. And it's whichever one they think fits their better.
Which side's using the banana leaf fan, Matt?
I would go the GOP's on the banana leaf side.
That's what I was thinking of, banana leaf, and the other one's got the Asian like palm frond type deal. Yeah, that's a visual, but of hate.
But of hate.
Of hate.
They're fanning the flames of hate with these very happy fans.
Wearing the lays, wearing the lays of dehumanization and corruption. So, nothing we've talked about today will matter 30 years from now, unless they pass gun control legislation, in which case it might.
Right.
Although a lot of gun control legislation ends up expiring within 10 years, once the heat that caused it to happen is gone. Right. But now, here's something. Go ahead.
I will say that while the shootings were tragic, and they definitely were the main story that everybody knows about.
Yeah.
Personally, I think this is the most important story of the week.
Yeah. This one affects all of us, will affect all of our children. I don't have any children, but and it will affect all of your grandchildren.
Right.
So in the last week, the Senate has confirmed 13 of Donald Trump's nominees to lifetime appointments in the federal judiciary, bringing the grand total up to 150.
Not yet. He's almost at 150. There's
okay.
17 more nominees that are looking to get confirmed and probably will in the next couple of weeks, and that will bring it up to 150 Article 3 judges that Trump has appointed.
Which is like, isn't that like a third of the judiciary or something like that?
It's if Chris Reynolds could weigh in on
Yeah,
that.
Chris, what percentage of the federal judiciary? Maria Edenbo says Banana Leaf goes to the side with the Tiki Torch guys. Yeah, exactly. Tiki Torch and Banana
Right.
fan. That makes sense.
Now, when asked about it, because most of these, I think 11 of them happened during the debates. While the debates were happening, they were doing voice calls. Yeah, just churning through these things.
That's crazy.
Cocaine Mitch, or Moscow Mitch, apparently.
Moscow Cocaine Turtle Mitch, yeah.
That's right. He said for too long, fairly uncontroversial judicial nominees just like these have been held up and delayed by our Democratic colleagues, even when the vacancy qualifies as a judicial emergency. Chris Reynolds says a big percentage. Uncontroversial district judges used to be confirmed promptly in big groups by voice vote. And he said that from the floor ahead of the votes on Wednesday, which were happening at the same time as the debates. And this is coming from Mitch McConnell, who confirmed more judges last week than he allowed Obama in 2 years, the last 2 years in office.
Cocaine Mitch will be remembered for keeping Obama judges out of the lower federal courts. He didn't pull that crap with Supreme Court judge, although he did with the last one. The first two that Obama pushed, he allowed to go through for a vote. But when it came to Merrick Garland, he said, which is funny because Merrick Garland was sort of a centrist consensus candidate to put up. He was like, no.
He and Brett Kavanaugh, 90% of the time agree.
Yeah,
90%.
It became neither here nor there. Brent Kavanaugh went on to basically be all he's a Merrick Garland. It's 90% of Merrick Garland. Or I guess Merrick Garland could be considered a Brett Kavanaugh. So I mean, if you could think of it that way, but
right. Four of the 13 judges.
Go ahead.
Yeah, 4 of the 13 judges were nominees that Obama had put forth, and they were added as a part of a deal set with Dems in order to speed these through. So
that's not that great of a deal for them.
It's not, but these are people that they wouldn't have confirmed 2.5 years ago.
Right.
Now they're like, okay, we'll let you have these guys. We just want these 9.
And so after these 17 more get nominated, which it's looking like it's going to happen, he's got 115 Article 3 judges in lifetime appointments. If he does 5 more judges before leaving office, he will have appointed more judges than any other president in history in one term.
Yes.
That's pretty impressive. If he does get reelected, which Matt and I tend to believe will happen, assuming the economy doesn't do what it looks like it's been doing the last couple of days, then he will be able to appoint way more judges. So, I mean, this is, when you think about it, these are the ones that are going to go on to become Supreme Court justices. Their aides are going to become federal justices. Like, this is a huge sea change in the makeup of the judiciary for generations, at least one or at least a couple of generations. It will actually ripple on into like great and great grandchildren.
Right. This is what has happened. What has happened with 150 Article 3 judges. This changes the landscape for the unforeseeable future.
Yeah, for quite some time. And yet, anyone want to guess how many times this fun fact was mentioned in the last 4 nights of debates the first two that we did, Demageddon 2, and then the other two that were back in the end of June. You want to guess how many times it was mentioned? This total reshaping of the judiciary for 100 years, 50, 40, 50, 60 years minimum. Anyone want to guess? Anyone?
No guesses, huh?
No guesses. That's interesting.
Not a one on any of the chat. Oh,
No one.
0.25, a quarter. Less than
That
one.
is, you are 0.25
off.
Yeah. It was mentioned not even once. And it's one thing to say that the reporters didn't bring it up because it wasn't sexy or whatever. None of the candidates brought it up. It's questionable whether they knew.
Right.
So here you have literally Hitler, who is like a white nationalist supremacist and is, going to bring us all to total ruin. But you're not going to mention the fact that he and his good friend Cocaine Mitch, the turtle from Moscow, McConnell, I forgot his name, McDonald, what are completely changing what the courts are going to look like for a long time.
Yes. For a very long time. And now, the reason that this is possible, the reason that this was so easy for Donald Trump to do was because during the Obama era Senate, when Obama was president, and
Harry Reid,
thank you. Harry Reid was the Senate Majority Leader. They did the nuclear option, and you didn't need 60 votes to get somebody passed.
It changed everything.
And they did it out of pure hubris that they were going to win and they were going to sweep and they were just going to do exactly what Donald Trump did. But
they couldn't.
They lost.
That's past the nuclear option a year later, and ever since, Mitch McConnell has been in charge of the Senate.
Right.
That was the end of that. Hubris is a word for that. So I remember
pure hubris.
It was pure hubris. This is a hubris-tastic episode. We had our nipple episode. This is our hubris episode. Right. It's also a nipple episode. All of our episodes are nipple episodes, but we have nipples. Because we have nipples.
We have nipples.
Matt Wright has nipples.
Matt Wright does have nipples.
Matt Wright's nipples.
Matt Wright's nipples.
So, hubris. So, I remember after George Bush got reelected, I was a tiny, tiny child. 2004, I was a kid. I was like 7. And I remember when he got reelected, and Karl Rove talked about the fact that there was, I think he said that the Republicans were going to be in charge for I think he said 50 years or some ridiculous thing. The very next election cycle, the Democrats take the Congress, and the very next presidential cycle, the Democrats take the White House. Similar hubris. 60 years prior, Adolf Hitler says he's created a 1,000-year Reich. Within 5 years, he kills himself. I'm thinking that maybe politicians should stop thinking they're going to win forever. Because statistically, that's not what happens. Right. So stop.
Now, if I was the head of the Senate, if I was the GOP head of the Senate, come November of 2020, I would put the nuclear option back in just in case. I would take it away. Nope, you need 60 votes now. I would put it back.
Get like 200 judges confirmed and then just be like, you know what? No one needs this much raw power.
Yeah, I would do that.
And then
I would do that. I wouldn't even think about it. I would do that so fast.
And then if they win again, be like, we need this power.
But why? You've got 200 judges that are going to be there.
That's the thing.
There's a good chance you don't need to appoint anybody else.
It's crazy. I knew he had put in a lot of. I knew two things. I knew that even since the Bush years, they were complaining about the backlog of empty judicial seats, and that had continued into the Obama years through attrition as more and more judges either died or retired or cycled up or whatever, decided to run for office or whatever they did, went back into the private sector. That it was just more and more empty seats, and it was creating a backlog in cases and everything. And I thought, someone's going to get a hold of this. But so I knew he had gotten a lot of judges in. I didn't know it was 150. That's a lot of.
Going to have 150 before the August recess.
These are federal judges. And it is
not all of them are federal. Some of them are district, but
they're still federal though. They're federal districts for. Yeah. No, they're not Supreme Court judges or whatever, but they're obviously they're federal districts representing specific groups of states or whatever. I mean, he has the ability to change the Ninth Circuit, which is one of the.
Happening.
Oh, has it?
It's already started happening. Like the Ninth Circuit recently ruled that California's gun control laws are unconstitutional.
Oh yeah. Big stuff happening. That was one of the things that people said about Donald Trump is, but the Supreme Court and the federal courts. And to his credit, to his supporters, he's pretty much rubber stamped, and Cocaine Mitch has rubber stamped anything the Federalist Society puts in front of him for a list of judges. So if you're a conservative, there's something you can be unambiguously happy about, and then just not worry about like the deficits and the gun control and
right. And
Planned
Donald
Parenthood.
Trump, I'm not going to say he's good at like 4D underwater batting, but he's really good at directing a conversation.
Oh yeah,
very good at it.
That's what he does. Yeah.
And I think a lot of his rhetoric is to keep people looking one way as opposed to another. And I think that he knew what he was doing with this. He knew he was changing the judiciary forever. But he kept focusing on everything else.
Stupid crap.
Don't look at that. Don't look at that. Let's look at this stuff over here. And when in a week where he got 13 judges was the week where everybody was talking about a tweet that he sent out saying, "Is he racist?"
It's pretty I mean, it works for him. You'll see the left and they'll say, we've got to stop letting Donald Trump control everything and control the conversation. And he will tweet one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And those very same people will go back to saying, we have to talk endlessly about this Trump tweet.
Right.
It's pretty incredible how he's able to do that. I that's what he does. That's what he's good at, is figuring out how people, directing the conversation and figuring out how people are going to respond to it. And it's how he became president, and it's how he's probably going to get reelected. And it's how he just got 150 judges. Maria Edenbo says he jingles keys and does what he wants. He does. He's like pretty much like the entire rest of the world are a bunch of kids. And he's just like, yeah, confirm those judges. Look at these keys. And everyone goes, Trump's keys are racist. And because they're not, well, I guess it's black. So I mean.
Right. But yes, while everything that happened in El Paso and Gilroy and Dayton are absolute tragedies,
mm-hmm.
This is the most important story of the week. He changed the face of America for generations.
Yeah.
In 2.5 years.
And no one talked about it.
Not
There's a good chance this is the first time you're hearing about it. Is from two guys.
Chris Reynolds has heard about it, but other
Chris
than that,
Reynolds, personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds, attorney at law, is an attorney at law who does personal injury.
Right. The only reason I heard about it is because another lawyer friend of mine shared it on his page and it said, "You won't believe what Mitch McConnell's been doing during the debates." And I said, "Well, I wonder what that is," because my hope was cocaine.
Cocaine.
It wasn't cocaine.
It was not cocaine. It was not cocaine.
And I read that article, and then I said, "I don't know if I understood that." So I read it again. And then I said, "That can't be right." So I read it another time. And then I sent it to Spike. And then I read it twice more.
So you read it 5 times.
5 times, not including what I read today when I was doing the notes.
You've read it 6 times.
Yeah.
Good job,
This-
Matt. So I had read something about it where they were like, during the debates, you wouldn't believe what's happened. And I read that and I'm like, oh. And then when the shooting happened, we've just been so enveloped with the shooting. And it's the conspiracy theorists will say, well, the shooting was to cover up for and it's not. That it wasn't. But the media, the guy in the White House right now is really, really, really good at one thing. He's good at a couple things. The thing he's really good at politically is directing the conversation. Since June of 2015, this man has completely controlled every aspect of not just the national conversation, but the international political conversation has been completely directed by Donald Trump. And it has worked for him.
Unbelievably well. I remember, was that Lindsey Graham's phone number he gave out?
Yes.
When he gave out Lindsey Graham's phone number, I thought that was hilarious. That was so funny. And I remember making a status update, and I said, you're not going to be in this campaign for long, but man, I hope you're entertaining the entire time you're in it.
We were right about half of that.
I was right about half of that.
It's absolutely incredible. He's the most, or I'll say anyway. You could argue it, but he's certainly in the running. He's one of the most entertaining people on the planet right now, and he's also the most powerful, arguably, and says a lot about, people talk about protecting our civilization. Our civilization is a joke. Everything is reboots now, and Donald Trump's a guy like the original reality show host or the original reality show person he was doing reality TV in the 80s when there was no such thing. He's the most entertaining person in the world. He also just completely reshaped the judiciary with the help of one cocaine Mitch McConnell.
And Barack Obama.
And Barack Obama, yeah. And a lot of people with hubris.
A lot of people with hubris.
A lot of hubrisy people.
The president, lots of hubris.
Oh, so at some point there will be a fall. At some point there will more than likely be a fall. And it will be, you think he's been entertaining now? A small taste of the entertainment that will come from if and when Donald Trump falls, whether it's through not getting reelected or being indicted after he's president or whatever. The way he acted after Barack Obama beat Mitt Romney in like the 24 to 48 hours after that is just a little taste of what is awaiting whenever that happens, which at this point, I'm not banking on it. He might die before that happens. But if it does happen,
we get to watch Donald Trump or Eric Trump act that way.
You get to watch some seriously hilarious meltdowns.
Yeah, it's going to be, if he does have a fall in his lifetime, it's going to be Charlie Sheen level.
Charlie Sheen if he had access to the nuclear codes.
Yeah. Charlie Sheen would watch this meltdown and go, I'm glad that I reined it in.
You gotta tone it back. I wonder if this guy's using drugs, Charlie would say. So
he's apparently taking too much of that tiger blood.
Yeah. That's pure dragon energy there. So that's the news of the week.
That's the news of the week.
That is the news of the week.
That is the news of the week.
So, guys, be sure to tune in tomorrow for My Fellow Americans. That's a show with a little guy named Spike Cohen. It's me. I'm going to be interviewing the possible next president, Libertarian presidential candidate Kim Ruff,
It's a
who
good. She's an awesome interview.
I love her. I'm married. She's also married. So it's a platonic respect thing, but I love her. I cannot wait for tomorrow night. And she is politically me with red hair. And also, she's a woman. And with red hair. The red hair part is, I could dye my hair red. She's a woman, I guess, is the bigger difference. So that's tomorrow. And I'm really looking forward to that. And we're going to talk about legalizing everything pretty much. And then, Matt, you've got the writer's block on Thursday, right?
I do. I have the writer's block on Thursday at 8 Eastern with Axel David, who is going to be talking about something. Something having to do with red light cameras and that sort of thing. So looking forward to and he's going to be in studio.
Oh, cool. So he's actually going to be in studio?
Yeah.
Nice. That's good. I haven't had anyone in studio yet, which is good because I don't have another chair for them. They'd have to sit on my lap. I'm going to have someone in studio soon.
We should have somebody. We should do an episode of My Wires of Freedom in Spike's studio.
In my studio with Matt on my lap.
I will sit on your lap for 2 hours.
That won't hurt me at all.
No, not even a
I'm
little
sure. I'm sure that won't be rough at all. Anyway, so that'll be good. So that'll be Thursday. Jason Lyon is back.
With a vengeance.
With a vengeance. So on Friday night, Shabbat Shalom, it's Jason Lyon. With Mr. America, the Bearded Truth, he'll be talking about everything that's been going on. Then have a great weekend. Tune in Monday for the non-Shabbat episode of Mr. America, the Bearded Truth with the always amazing Jason Lyon. And then check us out next week, Tuesday, 8 p.m., right here, Muddied Waters, parse through the news of the week, blowing it up.
Next week, it's a different hosting crew.
Oh, that's right.
It's going to be the first episode of Muddied Waters I haven't been on.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because that one I did doesn't count.
Yeah, that one doesn't count. That one got pulled. That one didn't get pulled by me. That one got pulled by multiple record companies.
That got pulled by everyone at once.
Oh, real quick. For anybody who follows us on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, which we'll get to those in a second. YouTube YouTube lifted their ban.
Oh, yeah.
We beat YouTube.
We beat YouTube. We have no idea how.
We don't know how, but we beat YouTube.
We just beat them. They had taken us down, said that we couldn't live stream, and we said, why? And they said, oops. And we went, oh.
That's kind of what happened. Yeah.
That's sort of what happened.
And shortly before the show started, or during the show, Turner Broadcasting, who I'm pretty certain filed the complaint, also lifted their claim on our video on Facebook.
Really?
Yeah, that came 1 hour ago. Turner Broadcasting accepted your dispute and released their claim on your video.
Muddied Waters taking over the mainstream media.
We beat Ted Turner.
We beat Ted Turner and Google.
Yep.
Raw power in these four hands. We're just seeing mine right now. Matt also has hands, yes, and also in Matt's nipples.
That's right, right here.
Right here in the old Matt nipples.
That's right.
Nipples. So, Matt, if someone wanted to hear or listen to your nipples on the internet, how would they go about doing that?
Well, if they wanted to see him, that's a completely different site. But but if you wanted to hear him, you can find us at facebook.com/muddiedwatersmedia. You can find us on Twitter at muddied_waters. You can find us on Instagram at muddiedwatersmedia. You can find us on Anchor at anchor.fm/muddiedwaters. And you can find this YouTube. And you can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/muddiedwatersmedia. And you can find this and every other episode at muddiedwatersmedia.com.
The hills are alive with the sound of Matt's nipples.
The hills are
So
Matt's
nipples. So guys, thanks again for tuning in.
So can you
And
stop with the N. Oh, she must be talking about nipples.
when I say nipples?
Oh, maybe that's it.
Well, we are about to stop with the nipples because the show's over.
Nipples.
Guys, thanks again for tuning in. And where we're going,
We don't need roads.
we need nipples though.
Mic check, yo. We still here? Still going strong, yeah? Are you down with Zuby? Yeah. I will not go pop, I will not go soft. When I say no means no. This is true hip hop, I do not flip flop. When I say flow mean flow. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. I will not go pop, I will not go soft. When I say no means no. This is true hip hop, I do not flip flop. When I say flow mean flow. This is perseverance. 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 I've been on the rhyme since I made a first appearance. I've been on the grind, never waited for the clearance. Life is all the time, so I'm gonna live it fearless. Yeah, and people gonna hear this. Made a little name with a vision and coherence. Never been a lame, now I'm closer to a genius. Knowledge in my brain, chalk it up to the experience. Still I'm not rich, but at least I ain't broke. Never sell dreams, cause I'd rather sell hope. People so lost in the mirrors and the smoke, think I'd be a realer bloke if I said I sold dope. Nope. But my fans will tell you that I'm awesome. I started selling and they bought them. I told them get them and I got them. So if you want dope bars, that's not a problem. It's time to put the needles on the wax. Rock hard like I got the Beatles in the back. Go soft, make it easy living off the map. Or I can go hard like a freaking cheetah on the track. I'm grinding from a zero to a stack. And I'm talking about De Niro getting jacked. If Wakanda needs a new king, I'ma go hard to be the leader of the pack. A needle in a stack, and I'm feeling to attack. Not a baller, no T'Challa, but a hero and I'm black. I'm an eagle to a rat, rebel demon on a track. I'm a scholar and a brawler, you don't feel it if you're whack. You're always talking evil in your rap, and I'm trying to put my meanings on the map. I gave you 12 rules for life and kept my room clean. I'm the Jordan Peterson of rap. Yeah. I will not go pop, I will not go soft. When I say no means no. This is true hip hop, I do not flip flop. When I say flow mean flow. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. I will not go pop, I will not go soft. When I say no means no. This is true hip hop, I do not flip flop. When I say flow mean flow. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. And I believe what I prophesize, so I don't apologize. Unless I do wrong, I don't bow to the mob, I don't live to antagonize. But they say I'm too outspoken. They wonder if I'm joking. Look, a little bit is jest, but I say what I feel, man, I'm real and I'm open. Trust in God, but I live in the physical. Selfish thoughts, but I give in the lyrical. Thought cops hot, want my speech to be criminal. Lies get fought when I speak the political. I am not left wing, I am not right wing. I just know all these things I know. You cannot label me, you can't put shame on me. When I say go means go. Fresh, I step into the premises, kick dope rhymes and they love how I'm expressing it. Hop online and reply to all the messages. Gotta spend time, man, I'm grateful that you cherish it. Don't talk crap, no, I'd rather be irrelevant. Can't play dumb, people know that I'm intelligent. See me up late night, big beard, Letterman. 12 years deep now, I'm flowing like a veteran. Dudes show love, now I'm moving up in eminence. Girls show love, cause they're feeling all the pleasantness. Got huge dreams, I can never be a pessimist. Too much love, I can never be a feminist. Girl, stop looking all incredulous. I am not a bad man, I am not your nemesis. Always had a mega drive, take it back to Genesis. Worked so hard, time to reap a couple benefits. Yeah, I will not not go pop, I will not go soft. When I say no means no. This is true hip hop, I do not flip flop. When I say flow mean flow. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. I will not go pop, I will not go soft. When I say no means no. This is true hip hop, I do not flip flop. When I say flow mean flow. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance. This is perseverance.